Three, two, one. All right, welcome back to edition 74 of the Jono's podcast. This is your host, Brian Bullock, and with me, well, for the first time, I have my first guest from Mexico. You could catch him on Twitter at TheHandicaper. Esteban, Stevie, what do you want to go by on the pod here?
Yeah, anything you want is fine. Hi there.
Okay. Well, welcome to the podcast, Stevie.
Yeah, very happy to be here. Happy to be an international guest on this very select podcast.
And you actually went the right route about this because lately I've been pretty lazy in booking this podcast. So kind of just saying, hey, I want to be on the podcast will increase your chances of being on the podcast pretty significantly.
Yeah. You shouldn't say that live because now you'll have like everybody trying to be on it.
Well, I doubt that I'm gonna. I doubt that there's gonna be everybody that I would accept. So, all right. So let's get into it because we got a good fun podcast here. I think we're gonna embrace some Mexican stereotypes. I believe we're gonna talk about some baseball. Some listener questions, which are always good. But before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the masses who might not know you. As far as from an introduction from a betting perspective, as far as when did you start, what sports do you bet well, memorable betting moments, good and bad, and your approach to betting, and then even Seth. Byrne was asking about your first big bet and why did you make it. So maybe spin all of that into however you care to do that. So take it away.
All right, big question. So let's go with the beginning. So I started betting, I don't know, really early, maybe 15, 16. As you know, Mexico is kind of how do you want to put it? Not a very serious place. So betting age here is 18, but basically, if you show up at a book and look kind of old enough, they won't turn you down, right? So I just sort of started very early, and then I sort of stumbled into Twitter I don't know, I started in forums, and then some of those guys had Twitter, so I figured I'll try it out, and then, I just sort of moved out of forums and moved to Twitter. And I've been betting for a while now, since I was like 15, 16. And at first it was just recreational, going to the book Friday night, watching some soccer games, stuff like that. And then I've sort of moved to the more serious, keep your own spreadsheet approach to it. But that's kind of it. I don't know what did I miss. Oh, so the Seth question, right? So that one. I couldn't remember, so I had to go search it. But my first really, really big bet was maybe like a year and a half ago. It was Liga MX semifinals, and my team, which is Cruz Azul, which you don't have to know this, but for the listeners, sucks ass. I mean, they're one of the bigger teams in terms of money, but they still suck. They haven't been champions in 18 years. So that's pretty bad. And so they finished that tournament first, and then they were getting the 8th place, which was León. León had a very good and young team, so they went through Cruz Azul. And then I was thinking, there's no one that's going to stop them now, because they were facing a very old Toluca team in the semifinals, and then there was no one else on the other leg. And they were plus 350 to be champions. And I placed a pretty big bet on that, and amazingly it hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that as far since then, have you had anything even come close to that?
So I mean, I'm still a college student, so I'm still in build your bankroll mode.
Sure.
So my unit size is just going up and up. So I mean, baseball playoffs this year was pretty good for me. In terms of I had some extra money, and so my unit size grew a little bigger, and then I did pretty good. So I mean, as of late, I've been doing pretty good.
Okay, So when you mentioned you mentioned that you were talking about your team. Do you find yourself uh, pretty good on gauging when to bet for and against the teams that you like?
Yeah, sometimes I did quite alright betting Padres games this season. Like I stayed away in April because I knew I was way too excited for that team. I don't know if you remember, but all of Twitter had that team total under, like every single person. So I figured I'm higher on them than anyone else, so I'm just gonna stay away for a while. And then after May, June, I just sort of knew when to do it and when to fade them. So
Okay.
yeah, in terms of that, I'm pretty good. And then yeah, my Liga MX team is pretty standard. I mean, bet them at home against good teams. Always fade them against bad teams because they just don't try at all, and that'll get you some money.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure if you go through the professional sports, you could find a handful of teams that have attitudes like that. Uh, so we touched base on that. So, as I introduced you in the beginning of the pod, and this will be like I don't know if you want to call it the ethnic portion of the pod. I don't know. We were expecting some good questions, and we got some good questions from people. But to give some perspective on us gringos up north from you, how describe how Mexico as a country treats sports betting? Because I know you touched base on it a little bit in your introduction there, but it doesn't sound like it's as taboo as it is in America and all that. So, just describe how they treat it, like maybe in a little bit more depth.
Yeah, so it's not taboo at all. It's a very cultural thing. Like if you have a team and you support them, you're expected to bet for them. Like that's your team. They're playing my team, so we're gonna bet on it. Like it doesn't matter forms of the team. Like you're expected to just bet on it. And also, betting is legal here, so you can drive down to the mall, and then basically every single mall will have like a place with some slot machines and a small sports book, and then some of them will have like live craps and roulette, that kind of fun.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not taboo at all, and like I said, it's pretty expected of you to bet on your team. So that's also how I started betting. So I found out, like, I don't know if you are familiar with soccer, but it's a three-way bet, right? So you can bet the draw or either team, and then there's this variant called draw no bet. So if the draw hits, they just refund your money, right? So that's
Okay.
how you bet with your friends. If the draw hits, no one pays anything, right? So
Yep.
I used to just grab like, say you support Team A, and Team A is a big underdog on the game. So I made you bet on them, and then I bet on the opposite side on the book, and then I just arbitrage through my friends. If you, I mean, I don't know if that was confusing or.
Oh no, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
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 so I would bet on my team, which was a big favorite, and then I would bet on yours the amount of money you bet me. So say your team was plus 200. So if you won the bet and I paid you, I still made a lot of money. So I was free rolling with my friends for a while.
that's
And
perfect.
yeah, then I felt like an asshole and stopped doing it. But it was really easy to make money that way.
Oh sure, yeah. If you have friends that don't know anything about betting, like I know I've taken advantage of friends if they're going to give me straight up odds on a team that I'm going to get, and they're like a minus, say football minus 6 or 7, and they're just going to give it to me straight up. Sure, I'll take it if you're going to be a moron about it. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then figure you do that, and then you bet their team straight up on the money line. So even if they win, you have surplus there. I mean, you're free rolling your friends. So I did that for quite a while, and it
So
was very profitable.
so do you try to do that with the books? Do you have a lot of Is it arbitrage? I'm pronouncing that wrong. Where
Arbitrage,
you
yeah.
yeah, where do you do that a lot with books, or do you find lines with soccer that you could do that with?
So I used to. So Bilin, which is an international book that doesn't take U.S. players, used to post NBA lines maybe 48 hours ahead of time. So I would sit on the line, and then right when BetOnline posted their lines, I would bet anything that was off by like I can't remember, maybe 4 points, something like that, and then just take it from there. And that was very profitable. I did that for a season, and it was maybe 55% if I'm correct.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, just getting the edge on that on the early number works like clockwork.
Always.
Yeah,
So another aspect I wanted to hear about, because since it's illegal in America to bet, except in a handful of states, and Nevada's really the only one where you could do single game wagering. We have a lot of setups with local. I think you're familiar with that term. I'm sure you've
sure,
heard that
yeah.
term. Is there a local presence in Mexico where you might, instead of betting through like Five Dimes or your local mall, you might use a local? Is there any advantage, or is there a scene for that? And if so, is there much of a scene?
Yeah, so I don't think there's any of a scene. Like I don't know anyone that bets through a local. Uh, Maybe like a big rich guy, but yeah, I mean we have access to Pinnacle. So if you actually wanted to go like really big on a bet, you can do it. And the local mall thing has like $5,000 limits. I mean it's not small at all. So there's really no advantage to going local. It's so prevalent here that the state lottery has parlay cards. They're called. There's one for soccer and one for football. Each week they're called Pro Touch and Pro Goal, and you can go ahead and fill them. And if you hit X number of games, you get the prize, and they advertise it. I mean, it's you can even do it through the government. That's how legal it is.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Although I think that if it ever did become fully legal here, I think there'd still be some kind of a local presence, because I think that, like you mentioned, the government involvement. If who's to say the government won't make the lines minus 115 each way?
Correct. Yeah, you're paying a lot of big. Plus, mall books have like the worst lines ever. You said 15-cent line, they're maybe 20-cent line, and
Yeah.
then they make you pay 3% of your winnings in tax. So I don't do the mall a lot. Maybe like if I have like a big bet I want to make and have some cash in hand and want to watch the game there, like I'll do it, but it's pretty rare.
Okay.
But yeah, they're pretty bad lines. I think you have that spot on. If it becomes legal, then you have to give up a percentage of your winnings to tax, and that may be all of your edge. So I'm actually not opposed to it being illegal. I mean, it creates a lot of problems, but if the other side is you can't win because your edge has gone through taxes, that's really shitty.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, if they're probably, even though there seems to be a push amongst maybe some of us degenerates to say, hey, yeah, we want it legal. Maybe it's better off, as long as you have somebody that you could trust to pay you if when you're winning. It shouldn't be a problem for it to remain underground, but who knows? But okay, so it sounds like it's pretty easy. You mentioned how easy it is to access books. As far as where you live in Mexico City, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so if anyone does go to visit you in Mexico City, what are some of the better books for people to put their action into?
All right. So there's one not far from the fancy hotel zone, which is called Casino Life. And it's this big thing, like maybe 4 or 5 floors right in the most popular avenue in the city. And so they will have like a lot of slots and then live hold'em and live roulette, live craps. And then the sports book is fantastic. I think that's the best sports book here. Like,
Okay.
think, like I'm sure it's very shitty compared to Vegas, but think like 20 or 30 TVs. It's usually not crowded at all, so you can get like a good table right in front of the TV. Dinner there is very cheap because they want you eating and drinking to bet more. So you'll get good food too. I mean, it's it's worth it.
Okay, so I assume that it would get probably pretty crowded uh, during some of well, my mic fell. Of course, there had to be some difficulty here, but
We're
um,
experiencing technical difficulties. Please
there's always
stand by.
there's always a technical difficulty. So with the sports book, I'm assuming that it gets pretty crowded during some of the more popular football matches on.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
And
because
Super Bowl's crazy. Never
oh
show
yeah,
up on Super Bowl.
no, I have no desire to ever even go to Vegas for that. I used to have this. I used to have this desire to go during March Madness, but I don't know why, because I really don't like crowds. So I'm not really sure I'd even want to go during March Madness.
So speaking of like good places to watch a game in bed, I found a bar the other day, maybe like a month ago, which has a book at the bar, like figure like restaurant with a bar and then TVs, and then there's a dude there taking your bets. So I think that's gonna become my favorite place now. I think I'm gonna go there a lot. Yeah.
That could be very dangerous.
Yes, indeed.
I know that the new thing, at least in Illinois, they've been starting to put slot machines in bars. That's like the new thing that they advertise if they want you to go to the bar in Illinois. So I don't know when. I wouldn't mind it being legal someday, if only just to be able to go out and do something like that. But I'll still probably have a local that I use when I bet.
I've been trying to keep my betting and my alcohol separated. Because when I started, I would drink, and then I would get home at like 2 in the morning, and there'd be live ping pong. Not lying to you, streaming right at the screen with 100 things to bet on. So I would like get excited about a fucking Chinese 5-foot kid playing ping pong and bet on him, and then wake up to a lot of losses. So I've been trying not to do that anymore.
So you didn't even bother staying up to watch the ping pong? You just like
you can do that. I would usually just watch a little bit, figure that's my guy, and then just pass out, and then wake up and be like, oh shit. But very, very fun activity to do 3 in the morning if you're ever in the mood for it.
The most random thing I bet on after 3 a.m. was chess.
Oh.
Yeah, somebody I know had a chess guy that they liked, and he was like plus 400 or something. And these matches go like several days sometimes.
Yeah.
So my bet didn't get graded right away. I think it took a couple days to get graded, but he ended up losing. So whatever.
I bet on a lot of weird shit, but just not sports. Like I'll bet on my friends. Like we're out somewhere, and then there's like a cute chick, and I'll give you 3-1 if you get that number, or I'll bet you, breakfast in the morning or something like that. Like I'll bet against my friends all the time.
Oh, sure, that's a given. Yeah, I have to hang out with my friends who bet more, because I'm missing that camaraderie that
like over-unders on relationships breaking up. Like I'll do that kind of shit all the time.
That's beautiful. That's D-Gen worthy right there. All right, so getting off of the betting subject a little bit, this will be more of the ethnic part of the podcast, of the
cultural part, Brian.
The cultural. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. All
right, covering myself there. So there's a spattering of questions here. I'll ask the listener questions related to this first.
Right.
We do have Sports Tita was asking about your favorite Mexico dish that we've never tried.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I actually gave it a lot of thought, and I came down with there's something called michiote. That's with an X, Mixiote, michiote, and it's kind of think something like a lamb stew. So what they do is they grab this leaf of the agave plant, which is where tequila and pulque come from, and they will put a beef in it. It's usually lamb, but I've seen chicken and beef as well, but the lamb is the best. and they use some spices and something called achiote, which is something between like a chili and a pepper, but kind of, I don't know even how to describe it. Maybe like a little nutty, like some walnut in it. It'll be like more, not so spicy, but more like flavorful. And so
Okay.
they'll mix it up like as a sauce, and they'll wrap it up in the leaf, and then they'll steam it for about something like 20 hours. It takes a long time to make. It's fantastic, man. It's really, really, really good. When done properly, it has. I mean, there's no comparison to anything.
Yeah, now the fact that it takes 20 hours to make, you have to have some dedication to it.
Yeah, I mean, Mexican cuisine is very complex in that sense, and time it takes to, for example, to make mole. I don't know if you've ever had mole. Have you ever had it?
No.
So again, it's this kind of weird sauce where it's spicy, but it also has chocolate in it,
Hmm.
and it has like 20 or 25 ingredients. And again, it's like a day-long process if you want to make it right. And yeah, I mean, it's like a cultural tradition, being
Sure.
this the cultural section of the podcast.
Of course. Yeah, we're all about spreading awareness on this podcast here of different cultures. So the next question. This is more of the question I was expecting to get from Brian King, and he was asking, "Is it true that your family of 14 lives in a two-bedroom house?" And then somebody corrected him and said apartment.
Yeah, I was going to correct them and say box under the bridge. But, so it's funny because my dad has 12 siblings. There are 13 brothers in his family, so he actually got it pretty right. But no, my nuclear family is just my mom, my dad, and my brother. It's just four of us. So we
Okay.
live in a decent house. But yeah, I mean the big family stereotype is true a generation ago.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, it's not that much different than America, because I think that a lot of families that I know from, if you're looking back maybe 30 or so years, my parents both are one of five children, and I think most people these days have two to three.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't think it's probably, I wouldn't say we've ever averaged around 12, but like I would say that people have definitely had more kids, and also that had probably had to do with socioeconomic things, women staying home and, not working. I'm sure that contributed to that somewhat as well. Okay, so let's see, what else do we have here? The question I had, I don't know how it is if in Mexico, if there's like, if you're stuffing people in a car as much as like you might see portrayed. Have you ever seen like a ton of people in a truck? Like, do you get that a lot in Mexico? Is that a stereotype that doesn't like exist, or like?
So yeah, it does exist. So let me
Okay.
get to the car first. Your question was how many people have I ever seen? What's the most people I've ever seen fit on a car, right?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to spit out. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this amusement park in Mexico City called Reino Aventura, which was then purchased by Six Flags. So it's now Six Flags Mexico, right? And they
Okay.
had this promotion which was you pay by the car. So you can fit as many people on a car as you want, and we'll charge you the same price.
Okay.
So when Six Flags bought the park, it became obviously very much popular, but they kept the promotion. So one day, my friends and I wanted to go, and we fit, I'm not lying, 17 people on a small Ford Focus, on a two-door Ford Focus. And then there
Jesus.
was two more people on the trunk, which they never counted, which was weird. So 19 guys on a fucking small car just to not pay admission to Six Flags.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
that stereotype is
And then, so the other thing I wanted to say is it happens a lot on buses. Like, say, rush hour, people getting home from work, maybe 7:30, buses get crowded as shit. So there'll be people literally hanging from both doors of the bus, like
Hmm.
just one hand inside the bus, the entire body outside, and the bus is just going with its doors open. So yeah, there's a lot to that stereotype.
Okay, well, that would be trippy to see like a bus going like 30 miles an hour with somebody like half hanging out of it. That'd be pretty
Yes.
cool. Um, okay, so let's see what else do we have here. Slam Deal, of course, had to have a few questions. Um, is there special training all you wetbacks get as kids to always park on the lawn?
So I haven't had that training, but to portray the Mexican culture perfectly, up until right now, for the last maybe 15 years, you didn't have to get tested to get a driver's license. You
Okay.
just had to show up, pay, and then they would take your picture and give you your driver's license. So you can imagine the kind of driving going on in Mexico City. Like I always say, if you can drive here, you can drive fucking anywhere. Like just give me an F1 license already. I'll fucking
Okay.
race. Yeah.
No, and before you go on, I know you mentioned that you've gone to a few cities in the U.S. In your travels in your young life. Have you had the chance to drive in any of the big cities that you visited?
So I haven't, but I've been co-pilot on many, and so think, yeah, I don't know, like rush hour New York, take all the stability out of people, and then just like I don't know, like stop signs are just a suggestion, and then you can turn right like 3 lanes to the left, that kind of shit, and you have Mexico City. Like that's driving here.
Well, when I traveled to Cabo for my honeymoon a few months ago, it seemed a lot. It seemed like the drivers were very polite. Like I don't know if there's like a cultural difference between Mexico City and like the touristy Cabo, but
Yeah, sure there is. Cabo is just filled with retired 60-year-old Americans. So it's basically Florida in Mexico, you know?
That's a good way of putting it, because I think we were about 90% of the time wherever we were at, we were probably like the youngest couple there. So that's probably a good statement
Yeah.
for that.
So just to wrap this up, tomorrow is Lady of Guadalupe Day here in Mexico. So the biggest Guadalupe temple is right here in Mexico City. So an expected 8 to 10 million people will get to the city between today and tomorrow. So today, on my usual 20-minute commute, I did something like an hour, like around an hour, and I almost killed maybe 3 pedestrians and had like 2 crashes. So that kind of thing will happen a lot. Like if it's a Friday and it's a holiday or something like that, the city is just chaotic.
Okay, I mean it does sound pretty crazy. I'm trying to think of the craziest rush hour recently with a big event, but I normally commute by train, as you know. By the train that you hear in the background is the one
yeah,
is the one I take to and from work every day.
I've heard it. Yeah.
Yeah, most people have. All right, so Slam had another question. Why were there only 2,000 beaners at the Battle of Alamo?
So all I have to say to that is we kicked your fucking ass, and yeah, that's it.
All right.
That's all.
All right, and my question off of all of that is your most favorite and your least favorite stereotype that Americans might have of Mexico?
So I don't know about favorite and less favorite. Like I couldn't figure one out. So say most true and less true, right?
Okay.
So most true is lazy. We're lazy as fuck. As fuck. I mean, you'll get the minimum effort out of anyone every single time. Like you're paying for what you're getting, and that's it. Like no one will try harder. No one will, like that kind of thing. That's true. That's really, really true. And then not so much a stereotype, but the least true thing is Cinco de Mayo. that's nothing here. Like that's an American holiday. That's not a Mexican holiday. And I somehow wanted to get that into the podcast, so I figured now's the time.
Sure, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm always up for dispelling myths here. So
Yeah, so I always
uh,
get like maybe 2 times a year, like, hey, happy Cinco de Mayo. That's like Independence Day for you, right? Like, not at all. Like, no one gives a shit about Cinco de Mayo here.
yeah, I mean, it's just another reason to get drunk,
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, as that's great, but like nothing. Like, do you know the story of that, right? So the French came to Mexico. It was 1862, I think, and we won one battle, and then they kicked our asses for like 5 years. But we won one battle, which is like, I mean, the Alamo and that one, and that's it. That's the only military accomplishments for Mexico. So, I mean, and then we ended up losing fucking Texas and California. So the Alamo isn't really a win. But I'm digressing. Anyway, uh, they just give kids the day off in school here, and that's about it. Like, it's nothing else. And then I know there it's like fucking crazy, and people get like shit faced drunk, and like, yeah. So that's my least favorite Mexican stereotype. I'm not a big fan of Cinco de Mayo.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah, it's just it for me, like St. Patrick's Day is probably the equivalent because I'll just drink any day of the week. Like you don't need to give me a reason to have a few beers. You know, I don't need an Irish holiday. I'm a complete mutt. If you, I'm a little bit Irish, a little bit of Polish. I embrace the Polack side a little more than the Irish side, but they kind of mix together well for some fucked up concoction of a human being. So
Yeah, sure, for the alcohol at least, right? Polish
yeah,
and Irish. I mean,
oh yeah, oh
Jesus.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We're celebrating the Bullet Christmas side of the family tomorrow, so that's the Polish side.
All right,
So yeah, so we'll throw a few back, and
that's nice.
hopefully there'll be some karaoke tomorrow. Do you have
Nice.
any? Do you have any karaoke in Mexico City?
Sure, yeah, a lot of them.
Okay. Have you ever partaken?
Sometimes I'm the worst singer ever, so if I'm not like with a girl and it will get me laid, I'll try not to do it. I did this place like 3 months ago. It was a Korean bar, and the idea was they had these little booths, so it was like a private karaoke for you and your friends. Pretty
Okay.
expensive, but super worth it. Because now you're just making an ass of yourself in front of your friends, so it was really really fun.
Oh yeah. No, that's a lot easier to do for most people than it is to
Yeah.
make an ass out of yourself in front of a bunch of people. Um, okay, so let's see. There's some other Mexico's questions before we get on to baseball here.
Let's do
I
it.
have to ask, is there anywhere in Mexico City where you could drink water?
I saw that one. So yeah, I wouldn't drink tap water if you paid me. Like my house has maybe 3 or 4 filters before we get any near any of that shit, and we're in the like the nice part of town, you know. So yeah, I wouldn't do the tap water ever.
Okay. Well,
Have you
so
heard the
that-
term Moctezuma's revenge?
yes. Yes, I
So
have.
yeah, you'll get that if you go to the tap water.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think I drank much water in Cabo. I think it was all cocktails. But that's the touristy area. I'm sure they have better water than the middle
That's
of
the way it has to be done, right? All inclusive place, and just attack the buffet until you get your money back, and drink cheap alcohol all fucking day in the beach.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll do that once a year. I know that's a gringo thing, but I fucking love it. Like, I'll just do it. Like, I already have my tickets for this year.
Yeah. And, I drank some pretty cheap stuff when I was at the
Yeah. That all-inclusive hotel is like...
yeah the shirt I'm wearing right now. It's Happy Ending. It's
Okay.
bar in Cabo, and a lot of it's a pretty Americanized bar, but they had like this 2 beers and 2 double shots of tequila for $5.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can I pass that up? Like it was right around the time I was asking people on Twitter, like, hey, what are some good tequila recommendations? And then
I remember that, yeah.
And then I was like, hey, wait a minute. This place has 2 beers and 2 double shots for $5.
Yeah, fuck the brand. Just give it to me.
I'm just going to ignore the quality and go for quantity. So, yeah. Anyways, I digress with that. But your cerveza and tequila of choice, if you had to choose.
Sure. So, this is gonna sound unpatriotic, but I don't drink a lot of Mexican beer.
Okay.
Pacifico's maybe my favorite of them all. But for example, I hate Corona. I think it's just piss, man. I don't like it at all.
It is.
And so I'm not a big beer guy. Like, I don't wait for the seasonal shit and go and pay $100 for a bottle. But I'll drink some international stuff. So I'll usually do either, I love Amstel. Have you ever had Amstel?
Yep.
And Carlsberg. Those are my 2 beers.
Okay.
And then for tequila, it depends a lot on how much money you want to spend. But I'm usually a Cuervo guy. So I'll do Cuervo Tradicional for like a regular Friday. And then there's this variation of it called Cuervo Reserva de la Familia, which is, I think, 30 or 40 years, something like that. And it's smooth as silk. It's fantastic. But it'll take you down maybe $80 a bottle, something like that.
Okay. And yeah, when we originally went there, we had a little confusion with the currency division that we do, because my wife was talking about how much she spent for like 2 liter of whatever it was, Diet Coke or whatever it's called, Coke Light, I think it's called in Mexico, Coke Light, and she's like, oh, I spent like X amount of dollars, and I was like, you spent that much on that? Like, but then it turned out she didn't realize she was spending it in Mexican in
pesos.
In pesos. So yeah. So I don't know, that part threw us off a little bit, but we adjusted pretty quickly to that.
It used to be very easy because it was $1, 10 pesos. That was it. Like, really, really fucking easy.
That's perfect.
But the economy here has been shit for maybe 10 years, so it's almost up to 17 pesos right now.
Yeah, I remember it was around, depending on where we went, they charged 16 to 17 for every dollar.
Yes, correct.
So I do remember that. All right, so let's see, what else do we have here? As far as tacos, you guys, I'm sure have like places, like chains that you guys have, but I don't know if maybe like it's kind of like maybe here where maybe you're not, you wouldn't want to go to a chain. Maybe there's like a mom and pop store that has better tacos. What are the best tacos that you've had in Mexico City or anywhere in Mexico that you would recommend?
So that's a really hard question, as you can figure, because there's 3 taco stands every single corner. I mean, like street stands and food trucks, and then like actual restaurants. I mean, you can go like as different a taco as you want. Like, I've had like pizzas with tacos on them. Like, it's that crazy. Like, we have a lot of tacos. So as far as chains go, there's one called El Califa, which is kind of a more upscale taco. I mean, it's not, I mean, upscale is $4 a taco, which is, I mean, I understand it sounds like very stupid to you, but I can have a taco for maybe half $1, you know? Sure. So that's kind of, they have like gourmet ingredients, and they have like imported beef, and they usually have like really good cheese. That's a great taco if you want to go for that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering how you would, like, I live in a pretty Hispanic neighborhood, so there's a lot of taco places in our neighborhood. Like, probably within half a mile, there's probably at least 4 or 5 places that you could go. Get. I don't know if they're how authentic they are. I haven't visited all of them, but I'd be curious, because I know that I'm sure you've tried them in the States here, and probably like kind of just want to spit on them, like, the fuck is this? This isn't a fucking taco.
So yeah, I mean, adding on to that, I went to New York maybe 3 years ago for almost a month on the summer, and I stayed on the Hispanic neighborhood in Brooklyn, which is I forget the name. Anyway, I don't really look Mexican. Like I'm white. I'm not your your stereotypical Mexican. So
Okay.
I would try to go to these places. Like I got a little homesick. I went to this place. I wanted some beans and rice. Yeah, stereotypes. Woohoo! So I get there. I try to talk to the guy in Spanish, right? He got offended. Like, what are you, gringo, doing talking to me in Spanish? Like, what the fuck are you doing? So I've actually never really had a lot of Mexican food in the U.S. I usually, like, if you come here, you'll have tacos and enchiladas. I'll go there to eat just burgers and a lot of cheese and, like, unnutritious shit,
Sure. Yeah, that makes
Embrace the
sense.
culture.
That makes sense. Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking of that from that angle, but that makes sense. Like, it's like Americans going to Mexico. We're not going to go there for like the burgers or something.
Yeah,
like
correct.
That.
You're not gonna go to McDonald's. So I didn't go to New York to eat Chipotle. I would eat like pizza 24/7. Like
That
fuck
makes
that
sense.
shit. Yeah.
That makes sense. And right before the podcast, I had some cold pizza from last night. So
Yeah.
I'm living the American dream here. Okay, so the one we're gonna skip over a few of these other topics here, but the one thing we have to talk about before we move on to baseball talk is the cartels, because Americans always we have, at least I think it might be a fascination. I don't know. I think and I know the Chicago equivalent of that is like the gangster life of the 1920s and 30s with all the mobsters running the city. I don't know if people have that kind of concept with the cartels in Mexico, but I don't. Maybe it's not. It's probably not as glamorized because of how scary it might be, in modern day. But explain to people who might not know about the Mexican drug cartels, maybe some of the truth and myths that are associated with them, and how often you might even come across it on a daily basis, or maybe a regular basis, whatever it might be.
All right. So the first thing you have to understand is there's Mexico City, and then there's the rest of the country. I mean, this is an oasis in the desert. This is a really great city to live in. It's pretty safe. Like, I've been here all my life. I've never been mugged. I've never seen a gun or a knife, or nothing bad has ever happened to me. To my dad, it has. So I mean, it's not like it's the safest place on earth, But as far as comparison goes, it's Mexico City and then the other places. So outside of Mexico City, things are as shitty as you think they are. I mean, it's really bad. So stats are not really up to date right now, but from on the last president's term, which was 2006 to 2012, almost 150,000 people died because of the war on drugs, and that's just official numbers. So I'm gonna guess fourfold from that. So over 500,000 people at least.
Sure.
So it's really ugly. I mean, and all the things you see are real. Like if you're in a small town run by narcos, and you have a business, you'll have to pay a protection fee. If you don't, they'll kill your daughter. I mean, I've heard horrible stories. And then even for people here, like, I wouldn't drive through a highway outside of Mexico City at 3 a.m. Like, there's no fucking way I would do that. So I think it's pretty bad. I mean, as far as stereotypes go, I think maybe they're like a little bit exaggerated, but not that much. I mean, it's actually really, really bad here. There was an op-ed, I think, on the Times about kids growing up in Juarez from about 2 years ago. You should check that out. That's pretty fact-checked, and it's done marvelously, like really good writing. And even I read it and was completely shocked. I mean, the kind of things that happen, and then there's yeah, it's bad. I mean, I just read one about a little girl from Veracruz, which is on the Atlantic side of the country. That I mean, she was hanging out at her square town, like doing nothing, and this guy came up to her and started flirting with her. Right. So, long story short, 3 months later, he says he wants to marry her, and he takes him back to the city, and she ended up on a prostitution network. She was fucking 60 guys a day for absolutely nothing. I mean, it's bad. It's not good.
Jesus.
Yeah, but Mexico City is pretty okay. I mean, like I said, I've lived here all my life. I drive. I'm not poor, and nothing has ever really happened to me. So as long as you're not hanging out with the wrong crowd, you should be fine.
Okay. I mean, I guess it sounds like a lot of big cities because I know Chicago gets a reputation, but it really Chicago's violence is very limited to certain neighborhoods and it's not as widespread as it's portrayed. Like, and I'm not saying that makes it right, but but overall, like if you go to most areas in the city, you're going to be okay. But there are certain cities, just like any big city, where you just have to watch out for yourself. You have to
Correct. Yes.
exercise common sense and just staying in your car or avoiding those neighborhoods altogether.
Yeah. So New York and Harlem, right? So I went to New York. I was hanging around the city at 3 a.m., but I would have walked into Harlem like it was nothing. Like you just have to be smart about it, and that's it.
Sure, exactly. So, all right, I think we've gone over a lot of that. So let's go. Let's transition back into the sports part of this
All right.
podcast here. And I know baseball is maybe. Would you put baseball on the top of your list, or would you put soccer, or football?
Yeah, no, I spend a lot more time on baseball than I do on soccer.
Okay. So baseball is probably for you a season-long thing where you're probably absorbed in it on a year-round basis. So I know, like lately, in the past few weeks, there's been a lot of big signings, and I'm going to touch base on some of the comments from the St. Louis fan base about the Hayward move in a little bit. But before we get into that, I wanted to hear your thoughts from just an analytical fan, baseball fan, whatever perspective on the moves that have caught your eye the most so far with the offseason.
All right. So first item, I think the D-backs are insane. I have no idea what they're doing. I would have hoped that after seeing the Padres last year, they would have learned their lesson. I think they're going crazy. I understand Pollock had a big breakthrough year, and they have Goldie there. I mean, it's a pretty solid team. But even with Greinke and now Miller, I think that's crazy. I don't think they have the team to compete in the NL. The NL is crazy. I mean, it's packed with good teams. I mean, the Pirates have been great this past 3 years. They just drawn the small stick every single time. Like Arrieta just dominated them horribly.
Yeah.
And I don't think they can compete. So I think it's crazy, especially for what they paid for Shelby Miller. I mean, what they paid is crazy. I mean, Enciarte is a very serviceable outfielder, and then paying a first overall pick for, a Shelby Miller that comes with a lot of question marks. I mean, he overperformed his metrics for quite a while there, and I don't think he's as good as he looked last year. So I think the D-backs are crazy. I really don't understand why they would just give up their future like that. Especially, like I said, after the Padres did it that last year and came up completely empty.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that seems to be the move that seems to be generating the most buzz. As far as like from maybe a betting perspective, I don't know. Do you bet many futures or like team total over unders?
So I usually do. Last year I didn't do as well. The year before that I went 5-0 on my team totals. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean I do some studying on that, but what happened this year is I just didn't have a lot of time. School was just eating me alive, and then I got a girlfriend, so my free time just went to the
Yep.
correctly.
Yeah. So as far as the early moves that have happened so far, which ones have maybe made you consider, potential futures if you were going to place them?
That's very hard to say without actual futures prices, you know.
Oh yeah, I
But
mean, I know that I know some books have World Series lines up, but probably not over unders yet.
yeah, I haven't really looked, but like I said, the Pirates are a pretty good team, and they have been for 3 years. And it's about time the Cardinals don't put it together. I don't know, like the Cardinals losing Hayward and Lackey is gonna be a pretty big thing. Like I think they won't be able to recover from that, even if they get Alex Gordon, which I think they will, but it's gonna be kind of hard for them. So I think that division is going to be a little bit wide open. Although, and maybe moving on to the next, I love what the Cubs are doing. I think, contrary to the D-backs, the Cubs do have the team to go for it right now. And that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they filled a great hole with Strawberries, and then Hayward. I don't know if Hayward was necessary, but sure, I mean, it will add a lot to that team. And then I don't think people are talking a lot about that, but they added Adam Warren and Rex Brothers to an already very good bullpen that included Rondon, Strop, and then maybe like a combination of Grimm. And Trevor Cahill looks serviceable again by the miracle of Joe Madden, because that guy had nothing else. So I mean that bullpen is pretty fucking good. Contrary to the D-backs, which is a Brad Ziegler injury away from being absolute dog shit. So I really, really like what the Cubs are doing. They have the team to go for it now, and they're doing it right now.
Sure, and I don't. I think it was Grooven Mahuva that said that earlier today that he was saying that most of these big free agent moves are don't really net the value that they're actually worth. But that's kind of how what free agency is. It's not supposed to net you like great value. You're just most of those contracts are based on right now. Like
Correct.
you're not paying for what the guy's going to be like in 5 years, even though you gave him a 5-year contract. You're paying for him for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the. Sorry for interrupting. In the rebuild correctly process. I mean, if you have a team that won't, that like doesn't have a real championship uh, chance, just tear it apart and start over. I mean, I don't know if you remember this. I had to look this up for the podcast, but do you remember what the payroll was for the 2013 Astros? It's fucking crazy. Just throw a number.
Probably like 25 million.
Yes, 26 million. So,
Okay.
and then they have a very competitive team right now, which is what the Braves are doing. The Braves took everything they had and just sold and sold and sold, and they got back a lot of things. I mean, next year they'll have Inciarte, Olivera on the outfield, and then they'll have Matt Visler, which looks like a pretty good prospect out of the Padres, and then whatever they want to do with Manny Bañuelos. I mean, that team has a lot of young talent, and then they shed a lot of money. I mean, Cameron Maybin is gone, Chris Johnson's gone, Minor's gone. I mean, they got rid of that Anderton contract, which was like 80 million total. So that's what you do. You tear up your team, you get prospects, and then when the time comes, you have money to spend. I think that's the correct approach to rebuilding. Maybe I digress a little, but I was reading an I don't know who tweeted it. I think it was Jaralbos that tweeted an op-ed on the Times about the Warriors tanking in 2013 with Mark Jackson because they had a pick that was top 7 protected, so they lost something like 20-ish of their last 30 games. And so they used that pick to get Harrison Barnes, and then they got Draymond Green on the second round. and then look at where they're at right now. I mean, I think that's the approach. You trade everything you can, you stock up on prospects, and hope to get a little lucky on that, and then have a lot of money to spend to fill voids.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, you're gonna. It's a combination of being lucky and good after that.
Correct.
Uh,
Yeah.
or I mean, I should say you have to have some luck involved. Involved with that. But yeah, no, I would rather have a team, and I'm a Chicago White Sox fan. Since there's two teams in Chicago, most people pick one or the other, and from probably the age of like 12 or 13 on, I've been a White Sox fan. But I did embrace the Cubs run. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. They were a fun team to watch. Honestly, I'm not going to be one of those. There's a lot of animosity between the North and South side.
Yeah.
And I don't get it, but to each their own. But I would rather have the White Sox just completely blow up and suck for 3 or 4 years instead of like middling in this like 75 to 80 win, muck. Like you're going to get a middle round, first round pick every year. And I would rather just suck for like 3 or 4 straight years and have rebuild that way. But then again, I don't know how well Kenny Williams would do. Or it's not Kenny Williams, but Kenny Williams pulling the strings. I'm sure. I don't know how well he would do with the drafting, anyways, because the White Sox really don't seem to do very well with their farm system. But that's for another. But yeah, no, I would rather, like you said, I'd rather just blow up the team, suck for a while, and then rebuild that way. But
that's another team I'm not really understanding. Like their big hole is middle infield, right? I mean, right now, what is it going to be? Maybe Saladino and Sanchez, and then I'm guessing Laurie at third now. But there's nothing there. I mean, you're looking at a rotation of maybe so say like Quintana, right? 1-2, that's pretty good, and then Banks. I'm guessing Rodon if they can get him to start, and then Johnson. Like, I don't really understand what the White Sox are doing right now. Like, I would have tried to. I mean, I don't get the Alex Avila signing, for example. I would have just stuck with Tyler Flowers. He would have been cheaper, and then try to get something for LaRoche and Melky, and try to rebuild around the barrel. That's my take on it. But yeah.
Yeah, it sucks because Sale's so good, and I feel so bad for him. He's like one of those starters that it's really difficult to bet those high juice lines with Sale games, just because if he's out in the 7th inning, you have to worry about that bullpen. And obviously, a lot of that stuff's priced in the lines, and there might be advantages to. I know there's advantages to volatility with bullpens built in the lines that you might want volatility when you're betting on these things. But with Sale, I feel so bad, because he pitches his ass off, and it's just like he gets hit the ball. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel you. I I felt that way about Paul Goldschmidt before all this D-backs move. I mean, guy is fucking fantastic. And he was just rotting away in the desert. So,
yeah.
I mean, for the sake of baseball, I hope the D-backs are actually competitive. But I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. But no, my wife's grandparents live not too far away from Chase Field, so I'm hoping one day to be able to go visit them in the next year or two to go see that stadium because it looks gorgeous.
It is. I think.
Have you been? Oh, you haven't been there. Okay.
So no, I've been to Wrigley. I've been to Petco maybe 4 times, and I'm forgetting something else. Oh, so near Yankee Stadium, and then the Mets, and I think that's it.
Now, while you were in Chicago, were you of age to drink where you could enjoy the bar scene after the game?
No, I wasn't, and I was with my parents, so it's not like we were craving to.
That's a little different. Yeah, so I mean, you got to see how fucking nuts it could be in Wrigleyville.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Beautiful stadium too. I mean, I really loved it.
And that was, did you go before they did the rebuilds of the scoreboard and all that?
Yeah, it was maybe 2007, I think. So it was Carlos Zambrano
Okay.
against,
Okay.
can't remember, but I remember Carlos Zambrano because he hit a home run that day.
Okay.
It was pretty special.
I love Carlos Zambrano.
Yeah.
He was fun to watch. He was the guy I would tune in to watch, even though some of the antics would be predictable. I thought he was hilarious.
Yeah, that was Adrian Gonzalez for me. So that's why I'm a Padres fan. I mean, he was the only Mexican guy in the league. He's fucking good. And then I wound up in San Diego one day, and Petco was my first stadium, and he hit a homer that day, so I immediately just Padres.
Sure.
Bad choice, but I did it.
Yeah,
Really shitty choice.
that happens to the best of us. All right, so as far as your betting approach to baseball, I saw your other account. I think it's is it Stevie Betts or something, or what is it? It's
yeah, I think it's Stevie Betts. Yeah.
Okay, so I took a look at that, and it didn't look like you posted all of your bets on there, but I didn't really get a chance to see like your approach, like what you might bet the most. But like when you're betting baseball on a daily basis, how do you approach it? Are you betting openers? Are you waiting out lines a lot? Take us through like how you might recommend people maybe who haven't bet baseball that are looking to bet it.
All right, so yeah, you're right. Not to be repetitive, but yeah, my girlfriend just fucking drowned my free time. So I started in April, and then I just couldn't do it regularly. So I figured stop posting, right? Like instead of just posting like once every week, just stop doing it. And I did it for the playoffs. I did pretty well in the playoffs. I haven't updated the spreadsheets, but I think I did pretty well. And yeah, so I'm a math major, so I consider myself some sort of a numbers guy, but I still don't. I mean, I'm not as big as some other guys. Like for example, I don't have a model. I'm working on building one, but I don't have one yet. So I usually do it by the feel. So I'm also pretty big on situational things, but not like stupid trends. Like not like yeah, the Padres haven't lost a game on a Tuesday since 1979 when it's 30 degrees outside. That's fucking bullshit. But I look a lot into, and I think I'm in the minority here, but on the days rest for a starter. So there's a lot of starters with pretty big sample sizes of 4-day rest and then extra rest, where the difference will be 1 or 1.5 ERA points towards that. So I will bet that a lot. Like if a pitcher is getting extra rest and he's really good on extra rest, I'll put an extra cents on the line, maybe 5 or 10 or something like that. And yeah, I do use a lot of advanced stats, but I go day by day. Like I said, I don't have a model, so I usually just log on Fangraphs or Baseball Reference and check out, head-to-heads. I also place maybe more of a weight on head-to-heads than most people. I mean, so the thing about baseball is, if a team is in your division and you're a pitcher, you might be facing them 3 or 4 times a year. So if a team doesn't change much in maybe 3 years, you'll have like a 10-game sample to really stack up against that team. So I'll use that a lot as well. And yeah, that's kind of how I take it right now. I'm working on a model. I'm working on some different stuff just to try to make the process more automatic and try to spend less time doing that. But yeah, time is my big constraint. I think if I had like more time, I would do really really well.
Okay. So as far as betting goes, is baseball like are you better at baseball betting than you are at soccer betting?
Uh, Soccer betting in general, yes, but for example, Liga MX is pretty much a really good thing for me.
Okay.
So that's a local league. It's just 18 teams, so I pretty much know them inside out. And as you can figure, I get news from them like all the time. Soccer here is a huge thing,
Sure.
so I mean, I do pretty well on that. But again, I do it kind of off and on at times, so I just don't post it anymore. I used to post it much more, but yeah, I just sort of got away from posting on Twitter. Maybe I'll do it again sometime, but
Yeah, time is of the essence for a lot of us. I get it. So,
yeah.
so one of the topics that you mentioned while we were DMing each other on Twitter was one of the topics you found interesting that I wrote down here was the stats that people might use incorrectly when making MLB bets, and I know even one of the stats that you referenced moments ago, ERA would be one that some people who bet would frown upon and maybe look at something different like FIP or XFIP or whatever those advanced stats might be. So as far as stats that you see people using, let's just say Twitter, but maybe I don't know how much you interact with people betting wise on a in-person basis, but what are some stats that you see misused either from a fan perspective and or a gambling perspective?
So I think baseball fandom has really grown on that. Like people don't use wins and ERA anymore, at least within my betting circle, right? I mean, there's a lot of smart people that do this every single day. So I mean, I use XFIP, and then I'm trying to use Sierra a lot more. So that kind of thing will really get into my betting. But as far as misuse goes, I think regression is just top of the list. I don't think anyone really understands what regression is. I mean, mathematically speaking, it's this very complex monster which is really non-predictable at all. I mean, it's a random variable by definition. So what you have is, and this is what usually happens, is if you have an extreme result that deviates a lot from the expected result, as time goes by, you expect it to approach the mean a lot more. I hope I'm not getting too technical, but
No, no, not.
the thing is, you can't really predict it, so it will get diluted into the time series, right? So as the sample grows, you're expecting the sample to be around the mean a lot more. But as far as predicting it goes, you can't do that. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, I have a huge sample of pictures that should either regress or progress, right? They're doing better or worse than their metric is telling, but you can't really put that into your line. I mean, you have to look at expected results, right? So that's where XFIP and Sierra come in, and price your picture at that. I mean, you can just say, well, this guy has a 5 ERA, but he has a 3 XFIP, so he's gonna regress. So that means he's not gonna give up a run. He's gonna pitch 8 innings. Incorrect. So as time goes by, it will, but that could be 20 games or the remainder of his career. You don't really know that. And
Sure.
there's a lot of other factors involved, right? So defense and et cetera, et cetera. It's not like you have an independent variable. So it's a very complicated monster, and I think people should not take it into account at all. I mean, so in that example I was using, if the pitcher is expected to pitch at 3 ERA skill and he's pitching 5, you just price him at 3, and that's that. I mean, don't worry if he's on either side of the regression. Just price him at the true skill level you think he has and move on from that. Do not ever factor regression into your handicapping.
Okay, that's a different approach, and I know that one of the stats that I don't know, I don't even know how outdated this is to use, but like batting average of balls put into play is one that I know I've seen people quote. You know, if a pitcher's allowing 330 something average on those, I think the league average is around like 290 something. People are expecting, oh, well, eventually those will, things will correct themselves out. But maybe you're not factoring in that this guy allows more line drives than the average pitcher.
Yeah, correct. So BABIP is another very interesting stat. If you want me to elaborate a little bit. So, I mean, as far as pitching goes, say this guy is giving up like a 330 BABIP, right? If he has like a really shitty defense, maybe that's what's expected. But maybe he's even below that. Maybe his defense is so shitty, he should be giving up like a 350 BABIP, right? So you can't really take that out of context. There's a lot of context involved into that sort of stats. And as far as the hitting goes, I mean, there's guys that outlive their BABIPs their entire career. I mean, people are just good at placing baseballs at the right spot, right? So this guy has a 320 BABIP for his career. So what is it? All luck? Is it skill? You can never really know. I mean, out of a huge sample of players, I mean, whatever it is, like say 4,000 players in the last 15 years, whatever. Maybe one of them is just expected to have a huge BABIP. And so you can't really know if it's completely skill, if it's completely luck, to what extent it's a combination of both. So what I'm saying is, this monster is so complicated that I don't think people should mingle with it at all. That's what I've learned from it, and I think that's what people should do.
Yeah, there's always going to be outliers. Like I believe one of the pitchers, we actually just talked about him, Carlos Zambrano is one of those guys that had a consistently, if I remember right, a consistently low BABIP, and that's how he was, Like he wasn't gonna regress to the mean of 290, whatever it was, whatever the average BABIP is. It's just like that's is what you have to expect, I guess, from him. It's an outlier, but
so just one quick example. Think Albert Pujols. So Albert Pujols through 2010 had a monster BABIP. He was way above 300. And people were saying, well, that's completely skill. He's one of the best hitters of all time. And sure, in 2010, I would have said the same, right? So he hasn't reached the 300 mark in 5 seasons in a row, and he was at 217 last year. So is that a decline? Is that a luck? Is he going to go back to his career standards? Again, how do you really quantify that? It's very, very, very complicated. So I don't think people should mingle with that much.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I think we touch base on those stats. So the one other baseball item here before we go on to like a little fantasy discussion is you mentioned something about a potential guide, and I know you're talking about not really having much time to do things, but with this guide, what did you have in mind? What is your purpose with this guide that you're thinking about putting out?
All right.
Great.
So self-promoting time.
Yeah,
so girlfriend's gone, so I'm expecting to have a little more time this winter. So my idea is all these concepts like this say mathematical background you need to have for betting. I think people have kind of learned it on the go, but have never really gotten like a good technical definition or have really looked into it. So like I think I mentioned it before, but I'm a math major, so I was thinking about, and this comes from where I don't know if you remember, but I did a World Cup guide with Squanto and Tortious Troll, which did much better than I expected. So I've been thinking about doing one for betting, which is like the basic math for betting, right? So how to calculate expected value and break-even point, return on investment, what's your edge, maybe talk a little bit about variance, as you were mentioning earlier. So just kind of like a small non-technical introduction to the mathematics of baseball for just about the average bettor. So
Okay.
I'm starting to work on that. I have a small layout, and I'm starting to do some research on it. So I hope by mid February I'll have a good draft to show to people, and then correct that, and hopefully by springtime have like a good guide to sell for betters, and hopefully people want to buy it. And taking this opportunity, if you have like any suggestions or anything you would like to know and learn and would like me to include in the guide, you can hit me up on Twitter. And yeah, that's the end of self promotion time.
Okay. No, that's fine. I give people the chance every now and then if they're good people. If you're not good people, then I really don't want to sell your shitty product. You're not going to be selling picks or anything like that, are you?
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, this is yeah, no.
And for the Spanish part of our podcast here, how would you say the words "fuck all touts" in Spanish?
So I don't have a little translation for touts.
Okay.
So that's kind of hard. A la mierda touts.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. All right. So hey, you heard him. You heard him. So whatever he just said, yeah, that's yeah, fuck all touts. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Never say never, I guess. Maybe one of these days I'll sell picks. I don't think so, but I guess yeah. So I'm against assholes scamming people. Like I know pick sellers that are good, they keep track of their shit, they're accountable to their customers. Like that's fine by me. I just hate fucking scammers, and I think that's two different things, and they sort of have got mixed together. So I'm not really opposed to pick selling per se. I'm just opposed to assholes, if that makes any sense.
All right, that's fine. I mean, I'm never gonna buy a sports pick myself.
That's good. I think that's what people should do. But if you're lazy and have time and find like a good tout, maybe.
I don't know. I think I don't get it. I feel and I've always felt this way. Like ever since I started betting at maybe like 10 years ago. Let's say when I was 22. I enjoyed trying to learn some things on my own, and I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. Like I'm not saying I'm a great bettor, but I'm much better than I was 10 years ago. And I feel like learning this stuff on my own as opposed to through some person I bought picks from who's not really teaching me anything. They're just most of these guys aren't, giving me the reasons why. Like, but most of the time when somebody offers like a write up on something, it's just a bunch of bullshit. They're just spewing out of their asshole.
Yeah.
But like I enjoy the thrill of like learning some of this stuff, learning on my own and learning what to do, what not to do, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at,
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I've never bought picks. And yeah, a win that you researched and capped and won feels 300% better than something you just did. I mean, it's much more satisfying. And like you, I enjoy the reading about stuff and going through stats, and it helps me take my mind off some stuff. So yeah, I don't see myself buying picks, but I understand why someone would do it. I mean,
yeah, I guess, but for me, I could never see myself in that spot. It's too much fun for me to try and learn and grow on my own, But
yeah,
to each their own. All right, so I know you're involved in a little fantasy baseball, so we don't maybe need to touch base on this a whole bunch. I think you did pretty well in the league that you joined of mine. I think you finished top 1 or 2 like in the regular season.
So you had a league like no money involved, just for fun things.
Yeah, I can't get myself in like baseball is not a sport I'm really good at fantasy wise and wouldn't want to put money on it, but I
signed up, I remember, and missed the draft completely, for which I'm completely sorry. I think I apologized already. But then I just played it out of the free agency and was the runaway winner of the regular season. It was head to head, and I was 30 wins above the second place. So that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
great. And then I lost in the semifinal by 1 point to the fourth place, which was really shitty. And then I won the third place very easily. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's fine. And as far as other leagues go, I did pretty well this year.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, you're in a league with Spreadopedia. That's like a dynasty type of league. Or would those be your type of preferred leagues? You're doing
Yeah,
this?
so I set up this league 2 years ago. We're going into our third season now. And it
Okay.
happened because I read an article on Gartland. I don't know if Cheetah or Sona posted it, but the idea is you have a salary cap, which is based on real players' salaries. So, for example, this year we had a cap of 126 million, I think it was. So, if you
Okay.
wanted Clayton Kershaw on your team, you had to spend 32 million of those 126. So, basically, a fourth or a fifth of your cap on a single player, right? So it becomes very competitive. I mean, people are changing players all the time. You have these big free agents like Zach Greinke wasn't on a team for most of the season. Neither was big pitchers. Yeah, I mean,
Kershaw.
yeah, Kershaw was. Hema had Kershaw for the entire year. But
Okay.
no, I was thinking about the Phillies guy that got traded to the
Oh,
Rangers.
Hamels.
Hamels, that's right, yeah. And those kind of guys were on the wire the entire year, so it's very fun. I like those sort of formats, and I won that league this year, so I did pretty well. And then I was in a couple of other leagues, one with a shared team with Cheetah. We went 50-50 on the entry, and we won second place on that one. And then I won another one with my friends, which was pretty easy to be honest. But I'm really thinking of expanding my fantasy thing. I mean, I'm really into fantasy.
Okay.
Uh, I'm expecting with all these DraftKings issues that they will open up the international market soon. But if they don't, I'm just gonna get a proxy to bet on the US because I think I will do really well on daily fantasy. Like by September, I was looking at lineups every day, even if I couldn't really get them in.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, yeah, you follow enough American people to have seen like nonstop posts about lineups on a daily basis. So yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
I forgot that that's not expanded to
It's fucking bullshit, but I'm hopefully someone will open up a site. I mean, they're billion-dollar companies, right? So someone, I'm guessing Lat Brokers or Bwin or some of the like one of those big companies will open up a daily fantasy site soon for international users.
I mean, it makes sense. You already have all the other forms of gambling legal, so why
Yeah.
like I don't know I don't know the legal loopholes that they're trying to get through, but I know in England I think they had to actually apply as a gambling for like a gambling license.
Well,
Even
because it is gambling. Or
no,
what do you think, Ryan?
no, it is, but I'm saying they had like England, or I think it was England, made them apply for a gambling
Sure,
license,
as they should.
even though they don't, even though they're in the states, they
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
"Oh, we're not gambling." No, you're gambling.
yeah. You are.
You're
It
admitted
is
it.
gambling. Let's just cut the shit. It is gambling. Let's regulate it and make it legal and fuck everything else, right? Well, that's my stance, but
I don't have a problem with making it legal. I just it should be like any industry. There should be some regulations involved with it so that people aren't scamming. Like these other like going. When you're a DraftKings employee, like and having all this data that you could use on FanDuel. I think that was the tipping point for me. Like, why the fuck aren't people like in the DFS community like wanting to try and get some regulation with this?
yeah, I think my stance on it is they got too greedy.
Mhm.
Way too much advertising. They could have just stayed quiet, made a lot of money, go through next year, and then they decided to put a fucking commercial every 30 seconds, and it was bound to happen.
Yep.
It was really stupid of their. I mean, yeah, just dumbass move.
Oh yeah, no, but it was gonna happen, and I think that's why, I probably get a little too much joy out of some of those people that like whine about like, oh, what, why is this illegal now, like blah blah blah, but like, no, I think it should be legal. Honestly, I'm just laughing at all the people that like just kind of brush all that stuff under the rug. Like, yeah, there should be some regulation, but whatever. All right. So we talked about the fantasy baseball part. I wanted to read through some of these tweets that came through today because I was entertained at work today by the Best Fans St. Louis account, and I think you probably saw some of these retweeted. I don't know if you retweeted any of these yourself, but it kind of just goes to show you how crazy fan bases can get. And I don't know, what do you follow a lot of fans of Mexico sports teams? And if so, are they like as ignorant like with their tweets as some of these tweets that I'm about to read might come off?
So yeah, I think there's ignorant fans everywhere.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm sure there is. I didn't think that. I figured that was the universal thing. I should emphasize that before I read this.
So not with baseball, but with soccer.
Okay.
A lot of ignorant soccer fans here. A lot of them.
Okay, because there was a lot of. I'm just gonna kind of read some of these that were directed towards Jason Hayward. Jason Hayward, you disloyal fuck. Jason Hayward, fuck you, bitch. Jason Hayward, fuck you. I hope you tear an ACL or something, you pussy fuck. And there was a lot of people wishing that he would tear his ACL. There was somebody that said, I hope you break both your legs every fucking spring training. Like, I mean, I don't know where that anger comes from because I'm not that passionate about anything. So, like, I get sports fandom to a degree, but there's just some of these loonies, like, and I like you said, I know they're in every fan base, but they really come to light on Twitter. Like, it really goes to show you the levels of, like, just like, wow, you are really this fucking passionate about your team. And, like, the best is when people will call somebody a traitor and spell it wrong. Like,
yeah, the traitors with an A-D-R, yeah.
There's a lot of faggots. Let's see what my favorite one.
You sent me one with I hope you get Lou Gehrig's.
Yeah. I hope you get Lou Gehrig's, and like somebody's response was, "Are you like what? Get Lou Gehrig's memorabilia?"
Yeah, I read that one. Yeah, so lazy he couldn't even write disease. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not that fan at all. So I don't get it. And okay, so first of all, Jason Hayward, right? He didn't choose to play for St. Louis. He got traded there. Yeah. So number one, he's not betraying them. He tried to help because he got traded there, and then he can do whatever the fuck he wants with his life. I mean, imagine you worked for, I don't give a shit, L'Oreal, and then Procter & Gamble gave you twice as much money. You take the Procter & Gamble money. You're not saying, well, I need to be loyal to L'Oreal, and like, bullshit. You gotta think about your family, and you like money. Everyone likes money. And the athletes play for money. Sure, they would like to win a championship as well, but that's so fucking rare that they prioritize money, as they should. I mean, it's crazy, but
No, and like in our perspective, people will be like, oh, well, what's the difference between 140 million and 160 million? Well, 20 million.
Exactly.
Money. So like. Yeah,
three fucking houses, man.
So like, yeah, I don't blame those guys for.
I don't either. And I find it really like like I said, if you apply that to real life, like say someone hired you out of college, right, and you worked for them for 5 years, and then someone came in and offered you twice the money, then ooh, what? You're not going to be loyal to your first employer? Well, of course not. They're paying me double over there. I mean,
Sure.
whoever values my skills will get them, and that's it. I mean, I don't think it's fucking crazy. Like, I'm sure you follow this shit with Greg Hardy and the Des Bryants of the world. Like, yeah, they scream at their players and fuck that bullshit. I mean, I think it was spread in your podcast that say, well, if Sports Center existed in the 80s, there wouldn't be any NFL. I mean, those guys were fucking criminals, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't get it. I mean, it's hypocritical in every sense of the word because you can't live in this world with principles. I mean, you couldn't buy a T-shirt or food or anything. I mean, capitalism is what it is, and that's it. I mean, literally, you couldn't live in this world with principles. It's fucking impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. I mean, every clothing factory in the world employs people from Zambia, and they treat them like fucking shit. And I mean, you wouldn't be able to buy anything, like literally anything. I mean, I was listening the other day to an NPR podcast about blood avocados. So it was about this avocado big planting in Michoacan, and how the narcos control it, right? So if you don't want to support Mexican drug lords, you shouldn't eat avocados. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, like, you can apply that to every single thing in the world. I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And
No.
sports especially, I find very weird. I mean, I don't get it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. I've grown up past the point of like, or I'll admit I've had my moments as a fan where I look back at it, I'm like, man, I was a complete fucking tool or idiot like that particular day. Like I'm a 49ers fan, so like
Okay.
when they lost the Super Bowl that a few years ago against the Ravens,
Yeah.
I was pretty fucking drunk and like I had a friend that like just said something the wrong way, and I wanted to fight him. And I'm looking back on it. I'm like, well, it was a mixture of being drunk and the comment, but like, yeah, the fandom part of things really makes some people like do some stupid things or say some stupid things.
But it's very weird. I mean, it's everywhere in the world. Like, I was reading this tweet the other day from a friend. He's a big sports fan, and he was mocking Star Wars fans. Like, he's any different, you know? You're wearing a jersey from this douchebag that knows nothing about you. You'll never meet him. He'll never come across anything in your life. And you're mocking this guy that just likes the same thing. Like,
Yeah,
something on a screen of a fictional character. Well, that's basically sports, too. I mean, like,
yeah,
fandom is fandom of anything. And I don't get this whole let's mock the other guy for whatever he likes. People like shit, and that's it. I mean, as long as you're not killing or raping people, just go ahead and do whatever the fuck you want. I mean,
I don't care.
yeah.
So no, I agree. All right, well, let's get into some of the more listener questions here.
Okay.
These are more of the random ones. We've already gone through some of them, and I feel dumb for this first one here. I kind of fell for the trap. Are you twins with Jonah Hill? And I never really looked closely at your profile, so I didn't really notice the Jonah Hill comment until Blind Capper actually said something, and then I made a dumb DM to you like, that's Jonah Hill, right? Like, yeah. So are you Jonah Hill's twin?
No.
Okay.
I'm pretty fat too. No, not really.
You know,
And to address the whole avatar thing, like I don't know. I don't know where Elmo came from. Like, I just needed an avatar. I didn't want my face, and I put a picture of a dancing Elmo. And then I figured, oh, fuck it, I'll just go with it. You know, like, that was it. There's no special reason. I don't feel sexually attracted to puppets or have a crazy story. Nothing at all.
okay, so yeah, Thick Slicing was asking why did you hover hand Elmo?
In my dreams, no, not really.
Okay. All right. Learn Doc. Well, first he asked, "Who are you?" Because I don't think he was following you. But The next question he had was, a runaway train is heading towards a funny racist and an overnight better. Which one do you push out of the way?
The train. Poor train,
No.
man. Why does he have to hit two people? Let him go out of his way. No, the overnight better. I like betters really a lot. So, yeah, fuck the racist. Not because he's a racist. I just like betters in general. I like people that put their money where their mouth is. And that's usually betters. So, yeah, that's who I would push out of the way.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So, Pizzola was asking if you were aware that Cheetah talks shit behind your back.
Follow-up question: does he know I talk shit behind his back? That would be my question.
Oh, okay.
No, not really. I mean, I don't really care.
Okay. Let's see. We've gone through most of these other Mexican questions here. The other one was from one of my in real life friends here. Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
So I use it a lot, so I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I hope I never have to find out.
Okay, and there's actually one other question I wanted to get to that was actually released while we were recording. We had I don't know if you listened to the podcast with Anonymous Gambler, but he was talking.
I think I did, yeah.
He was talking about how Canadian weed was much better than Mexican weed. Now, I don't know if you have knowledge of this, but would you be able to have a rebuttal to that, or would you agree with that?
So no knowledge at all. Alcohol is my drug, and I'm not much of a weed guy. So
okay, so do you have friends that would say
sure? Every single friend I have smokes anything they'll put in front of them.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know about the difference between Canadian and Mexican weed. But if it's Mexican, just out of rule, I'm guessing low quality, so I'm gonna go ahead and agree. Just Mexican equals low quality, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say Canadian.
Yeah, I remember you giving me a little shit when you saw me post a picture of a Sol beer when I was on my honeymoon.
God, don't get me started on Sol beer.
Well, just to give you an idea, I only drank like 2 or 3 of them. I dumped the rest of them in the sinks.
Yeah, no way.
I think the sink threw up after I left.
I mean, guessing it's out of service. Still, that's fucking acid. I would rather have someone pee on my fucking mouth than have a Sol. Jesus Christ.
I feel like we have to end on that note because that's a good close.
That's the Shay and Irving goodbye, right?
Yeah, and I know that Shay is a fan of the Hispanic culture. Now, do you have you ever attended a cockfight or anything like that? Is there anything that?
So I do have a cockfight story, but the story is I was in a hotel with my dad. We were vacationing, so I was maybe 10. And we did want to go to cockfights, but there was like a soft part of the night where the cockfight was. They put balloons on the paws of the cocks, so the one that broke the balloons won. And then when the actual let's murder the other cockfight started, my dad didn't let me watch, and we went to bed. So I've never actually watched a deadly cockfight, but I've watched break the other cock's balloon fight.
That sounds like a rated G cockfight.
Yeah, very Barney the dinosaur fight.
Yeah, 2 plus 2 is 4. Yeah. So all right. Well, we should have ended on Sol, but we ended on a cockfight. I guess that's not bad. But
yeah.
Any other final thoughts before we close this up?
Yeah, nothing at all. It's been a pleasure, Brian. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. You could catch him at TheHandicaper.
Yeah, misspelled with just 1 P, right?
Yes, and it took me a second to catch that, but I did catch that a lot quicker than your avatar picture. But.
Yeah, I needed a screen name, so I figured TheHandicaper, right? So it turns out the correctly spelled was suspended by Twitter. Surprise, surprise. I'm guessing so fucking horrible tout had it and he tried to scam people. So
Sure.
just one P. I've been meaning to change it for the last 3 years, but I just can't come up with something decent. So
Just keep it. Just keep it.
all right. Well, sorry about the digression. It's been a pleasure, Brian.
No problem. You can catch him at TheHandicaper. Thanks for joining. Enjoy your night and enjoy your. I don't know if you're celebrating tomorrow's festivities, but enjoy that and have a good night. And everyone, thanks for listening once again, and have a good night.